Okay, got another couple seconds, I think. Okay, it's 6:01. We're going to call the meeting to order. We'll begin with a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence. And obviously, in honor of our veterans, tomorrow is we celebrate Veterans Day in the United States. We certainly appreciate all the efforts of people who have served and people who are currently serving to protect the freedoms that we enjoy here in the United States. So I'd ask you to stand to pledge allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Moment of silence, please. Thank you. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
Mr. Griffith?
Here.
Mr. Hodge?
Here.
Ms. Howe?
Here.
Mr. Thurman?
Here.
Mr. Perry?
Here.
Ms. Radel?
Here.
Ms. Edmonds? Edmonds?
Present. Here.
Mr. Schnee? Mr. Schnee?
His number might have been the
Sure.
one causing that feedback there. It's *6 to unmute. We were getting some major feedback.
Urban's here.
Mr. Urban?
Here.
Mr. Vogt?
Here.
Mr. Schnee?
Schnee, present.
Mr. McGinley?
Present. Thank you.
All present.
Okay. We don't have any recognitions or ceremony proclamations this evening. Additions or deletions to the voting session agenda?
Mr. McGinley, I have an addition. I'd like to add a motion to the agenda.
Mr. Griffith, please.
I'd like to add a motion to the agenda regarding the George Carmody Moran law firm.
Okay. I wrote something down here, Mr. Griffith, from one of your emails. Recommend to the county manager for the removal of the Joyce, Carmody, and Moran firm as legal representation in lawsuits for Luzerne County.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Anybody with any issues in that regard? If not, we will add that to make that number 4 on our agenda items. Okay? We have a motion to adopt the agenda with the addition of the motion that was just added.
So moved, Linda.
Ms. Howe?
Second, Urban.
Mr. Urban?
Yep. Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Any in opposition, any abstentions, none heard, motion carried. Motion to suspend bylaws regarding the requirement of the majority of those participating in the meeting must be physically present at the meeting. Ms. Howe, do you
moved.
want to make that
Linda.
motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second for Ms. Howe?
Second, Urban.
Mr. Urban? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition, any abstentions? None heard, motion carries. Motion to suspend the bylaws regarding the conduct of public meetings to the extent that the current format is inconsistent with the terms of the state's emergency declaration. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Kendra.
Ms. Radel? Do we have a second for Ms. Radel?
Second, McDermott.
Ms. McDermott? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition?
No, Walter.
Mr. Griffith, any abstentions? None heard, motion carried. Now down to public comment on voting session agenda items. The public now has the opportunity to comment on any items in the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, this is Mark Rabel speaking.
I think Mr. Rabo was first, I believe, right? Mr. Rabo?
Yes,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is in regards to added agenda item number 4 with the removal of Joyce Karamoti. I think this is very necessary in light of what transpired at the last meeting. If there is no consequence to the action of the law firm that took it upon itself to enter into litigation on behalf of the county without county council's knowledge or consent, then there is no repercussions or consequences for anyone in the future to just go on their merry way to just usurp the authority of council. So I believe this is not only obviously necessary, but it's imperative to preserve the authority of Luzerne County Council under our home rule form of government. If no action is taken to do something about this in terms of consequences that transpired at the last, before the last meeting, then the county council will abdicate its authority, and it will diminish, I believe, its authority in the eyes of the residents of the county and to the outside world. So I think the council needs to take a stand on this and show that its authority needs to be respected, and by any entity that tries to represent the county, they should do so with the respect and consideration that they give the council prior notice, and have their consent on any actions that were taken on behalf of the county. So I believe this is not only necessary, but imperative. That is all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Someone else was trying to speak?
Mr. Knapp?
Go ahead, Mr. Knapp.
Thank you, Chairman. This is pertaining to what was just discussed. I concur with both Councilman Walter Griffith and Jason Barr in that subject that was just mentioned, common sense rules in that area. Okay, now in respect to agenda items, county number 2 regarding discussion regarding juvenile detention center RFP. First, there's 4 questions I wanted to ask.
What, excuse me, Mr. Knapp, which item on the agenda are you speaking to?
Number 2, discussion regarding juvenile detention center RFP.
No, that's on the work session, Mr. Knapp.
Oh, okay. Disregard. I will wait until the work session then.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Someone else from the public who would like to speak?
Mr. Manta.
Go ahead, Mr. Manta.
Okay, on the discussion at that last meeting with the attorney for the Luzerne County, I believe that they should part ways with the attorney because he made the county look very bad by doing what he did. And if anyone acknowledged that and told them to do it, they should all also be held culpable for removing themselves. Okay? Like, don't just kill the messenger. The person that sent the message to them and concurred with them should also be penalized. The law firm should definitely be taken out of the realm of the Luzerne County, and the people that maybe I don't want to put words in people's mouth, but if the shoe fits, wear it, and have them step away from the law firm, please. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Anyone else from the public who would like to speak regarding agenda items?
Mr. Dwyer from Larksville.
Go ahead, Mr. Dwyer.
I support the motion to sever the law firm. That's my public comment.
Thank you. Anyone else?
You're welcome.
If not, we'll move down to the first agenda item, approval of the minutes from October 27th. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Who's that? Do we have a
Kendra?
motion to approve the minutes?
Yeah, motion, Kendra?
Okay, do we have a second for Ms. Radel?
Second.
Mr. Sneed? On the question? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition?
No. Urban.
Mr. Urban?
No, no, Walter.
Mr. Griffith? Any abstentions? None heard, motion carries. Old business, we don't have anything listed.
I do have something, Mr. McGinley, under old business, if I might.
Go ahead, Mr. Griffith.
Under old business, I brought up at the last meeting about the resolution 22093 regarding the 11-0 vote of council to move money, $210,000 to a certain account, and it was moved into a different account. I would like the Office of Law to weigh in and let us know what procedure the council needs to take for the Budget and Finance Department not following a duly authorized resolution of council.
Okay. That's it?
We will do that. I did not assign that to anybody, but we will do that.
Okay.
If you could get that for me for the next meeting, that would be great. I mean, I'm not looking for anything punitive. I just want to make sure that the record reflects the correct thing. So if in fact we have to, in the opinion of Budget and Finance, we have to amend that resolution, I'm certainly not adverse to that. But the resolution is, as it stands, not been transferred properly. So if after consultation you think we need to amend that, certainly let me know or let the chairman know, and we can make the necessary change.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Moving on to the back side of the page, please. Motion to approve the updated Act 13 grant timeline, and the grant timeline's in front of you. This came from the Act 13 committee. Mr. Vo, correct?
Yes, sir, and I'll make that motion.
We'll make that motion. Do we have a second for Mr. Vo?
Second, Linda.
Ms. Hauk? On the question? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any in opposition? Any abstentions? None heard. Motion carried. Moving to number 2. Motion to approve the Wright Township Act 13th grant application. We have a motion.
So moved, McDermott.
Ms. McDermott, do we have a second for Ms. McDermott?
Second.
Who is that?
Schnee. Second.
Mr. Sneed. Very good. On the question? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Number 3, motion to approve the execution of the Workforce Development Grant application. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Kendra.
Ms. Radel, do we have a second for Ms. Radel?
Second, Leanne.
Dermot? On the question?
On the question, Mr. McGinley, is this a
Yes.
formality?
This is a formality,
to
but
allow
allows
the,
them to access their funds.
To allow access to the funds? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah, I think we did it last year, about the same time of year. And you saw the email and the information that was forwarded, so,
Yes, thank you.
okay? Anyone else? All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition, any abstentions? None heard, motion carries. And now we're to number 4, which was the addition from Mr. Griffith. Recommend to the county manager for the removal of the Joyce Carmody Moran firm as legal representation in lawsuits for Luzerne County. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can I comment on this?
Well, as soon as we have a motion and a second, I'll go
I'm
open
sorry.
up for
You're right.
questions.
Okay.
Motion, please.
I'll second the motion, Mr. Chair.
Who made the motion?
Walter?
Mr. Griffith. Very good. Do we have a second?
Harry, second.
Mr. Haas. Very good. Now on the question, Mr. Perry?
Yes, can I ask the Office of Law hone in on this to give us a little their thoughts.
Okay. Ms. Crokimal or Mr. DeLuca, you want to comment
Yeah,
about the motion as it's stated, please?
Well, I mean, as the motion is stated, council certainly has the ability to request the county manager to, to ask that firm not represent Luzerne County anymore. I think, though, as far as the Office of Law goes, Ramilda and I had quite a bit of conversation about this. And, in all my years as solicitor with the county, I never had such a lawsuit that where politics was such a germane part of it. And I think one of the things that kind of got lost in this whole issue was that the firm was hired to win the case. As lawyers, we have ethical responsibility to zealously advocate for our client. So I get it. To me, I mean, it was something that I would have liked to see, especially now with hindsight, without any doubt. I would have liked to see counsel be involved more because it was a political type of lawsuit, something the likes of which I know with my association with the solicitor's office and the Office of Law, we've never seen before. So as far as the motion goes, the motion is perfectly legal under the charter for the council to request this. I think in fairness, though, to this firm does extremely good work for us. They have been involved with a number of successful litigations. They are economical. They're the type of firm that we don't get billed for every phone call, for every second of every phone call. And that's something that I, as solicitor, Dave Pedri following me as solicitor, and then Ramilda had always been very aware of when it came to outside counsel. And again, when you break it down, their job was to win the case, and they were not given any instruction other than that. So whether or not that's the type of penalty counsel would request or not under those circumstances, it's perfectly within counsel's right to request it.
Mr. McGinley, if I could just.
Oh, are you done, Vito?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Griffith.
I just want to clarify the reason for the motion was not because of his ability to win the case or the issue of, their representation in the county in the past. But my big concern was at the last meeting when Mr. Moran was there giving us the details of the reason why he filed the motion to recuse, and Ms. Seidman asked him specifically how many of the other 67 counties joined the lawsuit, and he said all of them. But then as he got pressed further by me, he said, well, I don't have an exact number of that. And then after we got all through with it and we found out that nobody else filed a motion to recuse except Luzerne County. So I have a concern about the fact that when we asked the question, we didn't get accurate answers from the attorney to state what actually was transpiring. Then Harry asked about the motion, and then Mr. Moran said, as long as we include in the motion that they'll be paid. But then as he got pressed further, he said he was doing it pro bono. So there seemed to be an awful lot of conflicting information given to us by the attorney, which gives me some serious concerns about whether we want somebody like that to represent the county in matters. I wanted to specifically not necessarily name the firm, but as specifically just sequester Mr. Moran because of his inability to be accurate with his answers to counsel. And that's my biggest concern. I think the ability for him to win a case is certainly his ethical ability. I think that's what he was hired for. I think the ability to answer a question to counsel when we ask a straight question should have been a little bit more forthcoming. So that's the reason for the motion. It really is not about the political aspect, even though that is a serious concern. But I was more interested in his ability to not give us accurate answers when we asked them.
Yeah,
If
and
I
actually,
may,
I mean,
go ahead,
Yeah.
Vito. I'll follow
no,
up.
I was going
Go
to
ahead.
say, I mean, my understanding, and I can't speak for Attorney Moran, but when the question was asked about other counties joining, my impression before the council meeting, even that evening, and I don't remember whether it was because after we found out that the motion to recuse had been filed, I don't remember where I got the information, but I was under the impression that although we were the first to file, that the plan was that other counties would be joining. So I don't know.
Yes.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
Yes, and then the next day.
44946.
Someone,
Yeah,
I don't know what happened there.
I don't. Yeah.
That's Sheila's phone number. She is having PC issues and it's going to her
Okay.
voicemail.
Okay.
All right.
Well, if I can add to that,
ahead.
it was also my understanding after we had noticed that the motion was filed, that other counties in the state were going to file the same motion, and I believe that was in the works. And then Justice Barrett, on her own, declined to participate in the case. So the matter then became moot for anyone to file. And just for clarification, and Vito and I, we've been through law school, and even we have to sit down and sometimes go through who filed what, when, where, and how. And in this case, I want everybody to remember that this case was originally brought by the Trump campaign and the Republican Party against all the counties in Pennsylvania and the state. So we did not, meaning Luzerne County or any of the counties and the state of Pennsylvania, did not initiate this action. So for anybody to believe that the charter was circumvented, that's not accurate. We were named respondents and defendants. I also want to say that in this particular case, the firm was hired through the insurance company. And I just want to state this, that whether it's Larry Moran or his firm or any other firm, Luzerne County is not necessarily entirely in control over the hiring of outside counsel, for firms that represent the county, particularly in instances where the insurance carrier hires legal counsel and pays for their representation. If it's not involved with an insurance company, obviously Luzerne County has more control over who we hire. But in this instance, we are getting insurance coverage up to $100,000, and the reason why we're getting that coverage is because the original case that was filed against the counties, the law firms representing the campaign, the Trump campaign, and the Republican Party are asking for fees if they prevail. So, we can get into a long dissertation about how you prevail in litigation in order to be awarded fees. But that prospect was out there and is still out there because the action is still pending before the United States Supreme Court. So, and I will tell you this, I've never been involved in presidential litigation on either side, but I can tell you the names of those law firms that are involved. They charge a lot of money to represent a client, and they're 24/7 law firms. They have staff that work around the clock, and for the purposes of the litigation, we have to be represented by someone who wants the county to prevail on the litigation. This is as Vito eloquently said it, far more eloquently than I will be able to. This is a very unique circumstance, one that I hope we never have to go through again. And I can tell you, going forward, the Office of Law is being updated, and our position is being articulated. And I can tell you, matter of factly, that Luzerne County will not, under any circumstances, file a motion for any justice of the Supreme Court to recuse from this case. So I just want to remind people that Attorney Moran has represented the county for years. He's represented the county before I became Chief County Solicitor. I want to remind the council that Larry Moran and his firm prevailed, represented us when we prevailed in the TIF litigation. This situation was something that really, I think, took all of us by surprise, but to force or recommend that the county not be able to reach out to a lawyer of his caliber to represent the county, I think would be an error. And as I said before, the insurance company controls a great deal when it comes to litigation. And as I said, this case is being paid for, at least the first $100,000 through the insurance company.
Okay. Other people would like to comment?
Yes, Mr. McGinley, it's Sheila.
Yes, go ahead.
Because I'm having a lot of problems with my PC.
Yes.
I don't know what's been said before because I didn't hear any of you, but as far as I'm concerned, having been a corporate counsel myself and hiring outside counsel, to me, if this hasn't been the protocol of reviewing every motion with you as in-house, it seems unfair to change it at the last minute. I think especially since the solicitor said they've made changes now. But to all of a sudden do that without having any direction on that, I think is very problematic. And I think you talk about us being embarrassed by Luzerne County. I am concerned about if this happened, if we got rid of this law firm, which is a very reputable law firm, our credibility in the county itself among the legal profession is tarnished. That's my thoughts.
And if I could just add one other note, my take of Attorney Moran's position as to charging us a fee, I'm sure that when he was doing the work, that hours were being billed, because that's the nature of the beast. I worked for a firm where I had to do billable hours, and whenever you pick up a pen, you start the clock. I think during the course of our discussion with him, he made a concession that he would not be charging us for the time spent on preparing and filing the motion to recuse. And I can tell you, when he sends the bill in, I will look to make sure that this happens, and I'm confident that it will.
Other members of council?
Mr. McGinley.
Yes, Mr. Snead, go ahead.
As a council member, I had two problems with that. Number one, council wasn't aware of something of that magnitude. Number two, the Office of Law wasn't aware, again, of something of that magnitude. I don't know if we could put something in going down the line that we be made aware of before something like this, God forbid, ever happens again. And after that, I received a text message, I guess everybody on council, from Councilman Vogue, which put out a little thought process out there.
Some kind of feedback, someone?
Hello?
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Snee.
About, first of all, he's hired by the insurance company, and again, no council member that I know of ever had influence on telling the litigator how to litigate. So that gave me a little thought over that process. And one other item, again, Ramilda touched on it. I have all the confidence in the world in Justice Barrett's, if she took part in that or she didn't take part in that. And that's all I have to say.
Okay. Other
And
members
just-
of council?
And
I
just
could
for,
answer-
oh, go ahead, Vito.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, this doesn't require really a wholesale policy change in the way that we do office, even in the Office of Law. We weren't advised of this because typically in 99.9% of the regular day-to-day motions that are filed in lawsuits, we're not made aware of it. We don't want to be billed for them having to call us to tell us that they're going to file a motion to compel discovery or whatever. The reason why this was different and this was so unique was because it was a purely along at least certainly the way that the political parties took it was a very politically charged lawsuit. It was something that very early on, a number of council members had expressed extreme interest in the suit, and I believe there may have been some line drawn as far as based somewhat on political lines as to belief as to the merits or lack of merit of the suit. That being the case, it is something that in the future, certainly I hope we don't have to deal with something like that again. But if we do deal with a situation where we're dealing with a lawsuit that has such political import, from an Office of Law perspective, and I think certainly Ramilda would agree, it'll be something that we'll make sure we have our finger on the pulse of to a greater extent, and it'll be something that we'll insist with discussions with the county manager and cooperation with the county manager that there be some discussion and some advice or at least some reports or updates to county council. This was something that caught myself and Ramilda completely off guard when we found out it was filed. You immediately recognized at that moment that there are going to be people that are very happy with that move, and there are going to be people that are very upset. And that's certainly not something that should happen without some sort of involvement or opinion or advice of those individuals that sit on this council that are elected by the electorate of Luzerne County. So this isn't going to change wholesale how we deal with outside counsel, because candidly we're worried about every penny. But if we had to do all over again, and I'm sure Ramilda would agree, this would be something that we would have advised Larry Moran and the firm to make sure that council and the county manager are kept up to date, not just with a brief phone call, but with a little bit more
memo
detail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree 100% with Vito. We were both blindsided by this, and history teaches us. I can tell you that if I'm sitting in this chair as the chief county solicitor, and a case such as this with that's highly politically charged arises again, I will specifically, in writing, memorialize that that no motions or responses can be filed without an update to the county manager and to county council. So it's a lesson learned. But again, to remove Larry Moran as an option for a lawyer to represent the county, I think would be short-sighted.
Yeah, all he knew was he had to win the case.
Okay.
That's all he knew.
Go ahead.
Vito and Ramil, I got a couple questions, couple comments, but when you go to law school, ultimately the goal of the law, correct, is to seek the truth, right? The truth in all things. This goes back to the Greek philosophers. We want to see the good in all things. We want to see the truth. I mean, they talk about that in law school, I'm guessing, right?
They talk about being zealous advocates.
It's zealous advocates, and
Exactly.
they talk about evidence. They talk about evidence, and Harry, I still have an idealistic view of the law, but I can tell you, in law school, they do not teach you to be truth seekers. I learned that when I got my degree in philosophy. I don't know about you, Vito.
I don't have a degree in philosophy, so I don't know that.
But I don't want to dismiss your point. But what we're taught is to be, as Vito said, zealous advocates, and we do it within the rules and the parameters that are set forth in our case, the Pennsylvania Rules of Civil Procedure or Criminal Procedure, and the Supreme Court has their own rules of procedure.
Well, thank you for being candid, and you know what? I think I thank you for being candid, because I think that's essentially what's wrong with the country. We've been seeing for these many decades now, that we have a total lack of regard for the truth. And that's not a reflection on you guys by any means. But here's what we're looking at here. Okay, and I want to be very clear about this. When we were in executive session back in June, and I'm only sharing what I shared in that session, so I'm not breaching anybody's confidence, but I told our legal team, I said, look, this case has some merits, and I would like to see some clarification. I think there are some very valid points that are going to have an impact here in Luzerne County and also nationwide. And it's going to prevent civil unrest, because if people cannot depend on the franchise, if they can't depend on the vote, that every vote counts, every legal vote counts, and there's no deception or fraud, then it's all for nothing. No leader is going to have legitimacy if we can't have legal votes. And this stems from what you said. We're not pursuers of the truth. We have the zeal for one side or the other. Okay, but again, that's a conversation over beverages sometime down the road. What we're looking at here and now is that when I asked, can we have some clarification for these, and I think these need to be addressed, isn't it true that the attorneys can come together and they can also settle things out of court, that they can work towards a couple things that they agree on, that they can find a solution, and then litigate the remainder, right? That can happen, right? I'm being facetious. Obviously it can. So yeah. There were some issues that they never addressed that I brought up, that I had specific issues. I feel as a representative for Luzerne County citizens of all political persuasions that my voice was not heard. And I think if that were addressed way back in June, I don't think we'd have really any of these problems today, but they weren't. And instead, we saw through the summertime, we saw the Secretary of State and the governor's office pass more edicts that caused more confusion. And here we are. We've got an election in disarray. We've got, it looks like malfeasance to a lot of people here in Luzerne County. And we've got our legal team is playing politics when there's no such thing as a free lunch. I appreciate, yes, we're going to do this free of charge. But when you're when you're against the plaintiff, of course you're going to do it for free. That's what politics is. People are passionate for free. They'll go out there and work for free. So I'm not buying that argument at all. I'm having a really hard time swallowing even that. What Bob Sheen and Walter said was also right on target here. This was wrong on so many levels. It was a political stunt, and to call it otherwise really is to plead ignorance about how the system really works here. Okay, so when we go forward with this, I looked on the Supreme Court docket too. With the ballots are in question about the absentees. Our legal team went against in the opinion there in the response. It's the docket is 2480. Let me just get it up here, and you can see it. 2884. All right, we are the respondent in the case, and they want to dismiss the segregation of the ballots as frivolous. And again, I disagree with that too. And this is our legal team, and I'm representing the people.
That's not accurate, because I reviewed that. What that response was saying, we are doing that already. So there's no need for an order to be issued. We were segregating them. We had already made a representation. I sent a letter to the Secretary of State saying that we are segregating those ballots. We segregated them. The hard ballots we segregated.
I saw it was in there. It was included. I saw it.
Yeah, that's what it was. I wanted to be clear, and we did have discussions, and I said, I want you to be clear that we are doing this. We don't need an order. We are doing this. We are going to do this. The Supreme Court can issue the order, but we're doing it. Just make sure that they know we've already done it and we're doing it.
Absolutely.
So.
And, I'm so glad, Sheila, I'm so glad you're on this council, because I really appreciate your legal mind, and I really think you bring value to the table, and thank you for sharing what's on your mind too. But, regarding, if we dismiss this law firm, it doesn't set a precedent. All it does is say to people that want to represent Luzerne County, don't play politics with the county trust. And that's what happened here. That's why I'm voting against this for a whole host of reasons. That's the number one. And we need some people that are going to get together and say, look, what's right is right. What's wrong is wrong. We don't want to open our elections up to fraud. And that's exactly what happened here. And basically, we were a party to that, according to the position of our legal team. Thank you.
Other members of council?
Actually, I do want to note that there was another lawsuit that was filed. I believe it was filed by the Trump campaign against various counties in Pennsylvania, and we are not one of them. So I take that as a confirmation from all sides that the process that we had was fair and transparent.
Other members of
again, I think that'll bear out in the inquiry committee when we talk about that.
Well,
I would agree with quite a bit of that, but nonetheless, that's another issue too. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we need to reflect and debrief, but I just want council to know there was an additional lawsuit filed. We were not named, and we were not a county that was named in that lawsuit.
Other members of council?
Yes, this is Leanne.
Go ahead.
So even if council were to vote to pass this motion, Manager Pedri would only be able to request the insurance company to remove Attorney Moran, correct? Like, he can't tell them, and I'm asking this question because I don't know. Would he even
we have a choice in certain cases as to who gets assigned.
I think in this case, though, we're so far into it, we could request it, but the insurance company, we have a duty to cooperate with the insurance company. Given how far we are in this case, to have him removed, it would be very, very difficult to have another law firm step in the shoes of Attorney Moran's law firm. This is not making widgets. This is arguments and documents that are being filed with the Supreme Court. We will be paying twice as much to have another law firm come in, review the file, and represent us. And I'm not sure the insurance company would agree in this particular case that we're cooperating with them.
I just think I agree with Ms. Seidman that it makes us look ridiculous in to the extent that we are blacklisting a lawyer for being a zealous advocate for his client. And I know that the circumstances worked out the way they did, that our office was blindsided by the fact that we're asking a Chief Justice to recuse herself. But under the circumstances, he was hired to win the case. And so I don't know where that puts us in terms of, with legal counsel, that we're going to blacklist somebody for acting as a zealous advocate for their client.
And all we could do is request the manager. I'm not sure.
Yes.
All we could do is request the manager to do it. And I don't see that the manager would agree with this anyway. And maybe it would be more of a reprimand rather than to just get rid of Attorney Moran. I'm not saying that that's what I want to do. I'm just saying that maybe that would be something better, because again, having someone start from square one, I agree with you, that is going to cost a heck of a lot more money to have someone get caught up to speed on everything.
Attorney Moran is a brilliant lawyer, and he very quickly realized when he was at the last meeting, the feeling of counsel. I went after him initially when we got on, and I questioned him as well. He actually, as Mr. Griffith had said, he agreed, as Ramilda said, he agreed to not charge the fees for it. He clearly understands how counsel, or a majority of counsel, feels about the circumstances of what happened with that specific matter. And I don't believe, regardless of, God forbid, another one of these lawsuits came out and we had to deal with it again, I suspect that he would deal with it in a much different way, just as the Office of Law would deal with it differently.
Mr. Montgomery, you have your information you want to?
Yes, I just feel that it would be very tough to have someone step in and start all over again. Again, he knows how our feelings were, that we were not happy with how he handled it. But I just think starting from square one with a new attorney would be more costly to the county, looking at it from the county's point of view.
Okay. Anyone else from council?
Mr. McGinley, to be clear, my motion was not to pull him off of this case. That was not my motion.
The motion is to recommend.
No,
right?
Not to recommend that he doesn't represent the county in any future sorts. Not
Right.
this one. I'm not expecting midstream for us to pull the attorney away from this case. I don't believe that certainly would be prudent. I think we should certainly sanction him for his conduct and not being forthcoming to council. That's my issue. But I don't want it to get clouded with all these other issues that people are raising. It's about his forthcoming to council when we asked specific questions, we did not get accurate answers. I'm saying that he should be either sequestered or put on as we do with vendors that don't perform properly, we put them on a no vendor list. That's my recommendation to the manager. And as Leanne, Ms. McDermott said, he certainly doesn't have to follow our recommendation. Mr. Pedri could do whatever he wishes as the county manager. But I think there should be some consequence for anybody who comes to council and is asked a question and does not give us an accurate answer, either intentionally or unintentionally. I'm not saying why, but we certainly did not get the correct answer when asked a specific question. We did not get an accurate answer. And not only did we not get it there, we didn't get it in a couple of places if you listen to the audio. And that's the concern that I have as a council member, that we specifically asked the man what other counties joined in with this motion to recuse, and we were told all 67. When pressed, he said to me, he didn't know for sure the accurate answer. He said he would get back to me. But then as we moved along further, he did tell, I think it was either Mr. Haas or myself, that that's up to each individual county to file motions to recuse. And that's not part of this whole lawsuit separately, as well as the financial part of it. So there's a couple spots in there where he was not very forthcoming with counsel. That's my concern. I don't expect us to pull him off of this case at all. I don't think that would be prudent for the county to do that. He's already into it. If you're in a penny or a pound, he's into it deep. And I don't think it's prudent for us to pull him out. And I don't think it's good for the lawsuit to pull him out. But I don't think he should be able to represent the county in any other matters as some sort of sanction for his behavior. If that's not appropriate, let's send a letter. But something needs to be conveyed to that law firm that we were not happy with that procedure. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else on council?
Yeah, Mr. McGinley, it's Sheila again.
Go ahead.
I just wonder, Walter, I think when I asked him, and I'm not sure the procedure here. Yes, he did say everyone. I think maybe, they've had discussions, probably all these counties have had discussions and phone calls about this lawsuit because it is so all-encompassing in terms of the counties in Pennsylvania. I would think that maybe, and this is just a possibility, but I think that possibly it was written by us, and then other counties, and maybe all of them, or maybe none of them, but I think probably Mr. Moran thought all of them were going to join in the motion once it was filed. So, I don't think he was doing it at all intentionally. That might have been his understanding from the other lawyers, lawyers for the other counties, because their pleadings have been, I think, for the most part, the same.
Okay.
I can tell you at the beginning when this lawsuit was filed, there were CCAP meetings with the solicitors, and I specifically asked that CCAP represent us, and that was rejected. And in part, it was rejected because all the counties didn't have uniform systems in the primary. And not all counties, for example, we did not have drop boxes, and other counties did, and other counties were planning to have it in the general election. But I can tell you there were these group meetings with the solicitors. When the counties broke up and each county either hired their own attorney or groups of counties hired attorneys, I was no longer involved in those conversations. We were one of the only counties to have insurance coverage. So we went with the attorneys that are on the panel of the insurance company. But Sheila is perfectly on point that I'm sure that there were discussions among the attorneys that were representing the various counties, because they were from the very beginning, and I participated in them. Attorney Butera participated in them. Attorney Raddick participated in them. I like I said, I tried to get CCAP to represent us, and they declined. I even was trying to get a group of regional counties, maybe that we could join in together. That was rejected, and then we got coverage. We got insurance coverage.
Okay. Any other member of council?
Yeah, Mr. Irvin.
Good.
Someone spoke.
Yeah.
Who was that?
What I take issue with is the lack of.
Was that Mr.
I said,
okay.
quite honestly, in some. Can you hear me? All right.
Yes. Now. Yeah. Yes. Please.
All right. I was going to say, in summary, I take issue with the lack of communications before anything was done. To hear when we asked direct questions, the attorney that represented us, quite honestly, didn't provide us with those straight answers, and he was kind of circling around. And when we were asking direct questions, we want direct answers, and to sort of play political games is not really copacetic in my mind. So, quite honestly, we're the client here, and yeah, if we were looking to win a case, that's one thing. But when being the client, we expect direct answers to our direct questions and not beat around the bush in a sense. When we find out that something's done on a Saturday and there's no communications with counsel, it's a problem, or at least I feel like I felt like I was blindsided. And I don't expect that from a group of professional individuals who have law degrees, especially if you're representing us. And we have the 11 of us on council have a huge impact on the decision-making process of this county. And we expect to be kept in the loop on everything. And to do something outside of that scope and not keep us in constant communications really always comes back and it harms us. We're probably the best at self-inflicted wounds here in Luzerne County. And we give ourselves the black eye because we don't team up and communicate with each other as well as we should sometimes. Or we do communicate. Some of us tell you these things are going to occur, and then you sit on them, and then they happen. And like I said, get the proverbial black eye all the time. So I expect in the future that anybody that we hire is open with us, is honest with us, doesn't try to circumvent the process, dance around the situation, change their answer like 3 or 4 times mid-conversation. Because it is very agitating when you can't get a direct and straight answer from somebody that's a so-called professional that practices at the Supreme Court level. It makes him look like a juvenile attorney. So quite honestly, I don't have any faith and confidence in that law firm at this point going forward. I don't care how good he is. If he can't be honest with his own client, we don't need him to represent us. And that's just pretty much all I have to say.
Okay. Is there someone else who wanted to speak? If not,
I just think.
Go ahead.
Who's that? Chair, I think Walter and now Steve Harry. I think Walter and Steve said it kind of answers Leanne's concern. I think that addresses that, and I think this is kind of straightforward here. But thank you.
Okay. 2 things that I would like to mention. Number one, I think Mr. Crocomel and Mr. DeLuca, you said that you're requiring updates from all the outside counsel now in regards to litigation. Is that a correct statement?
Well, yes, and I am going to send a formal letter to all council that I want to update on dispositive motions. Attorney DeLuca mentioned we don't need to know whether they're going to file a motion to compel answers to discovery. That's kind of a rote procedural motion. But I am going to ask for notice of dispositive motions, which are summary judgment motions, motions to dismiss, and I am going to ask for particularly when you are in a defense firm and you are working with an insurance company, you have to give updates to the insurance company. And I'm going to ask copies be sent to me. Some firms have already started doing that, but I will make it across the board.
Okay.
And when I update council on a quarterly basis, I will include those.
Thank you. And the second thing I want to mention is, and I think I'm correct in saying this suit was filed in the Western District of the Federal Court. So you had to have a law firm that had status in that court. Am I correct?
Correct. None of the solicitors are able to practice in front of the Western District. Most of us are in the Middle District. There are ways that we could have been sworn in, but that takes time. And I just want everybody to remember we were under the gun. A lot of times we have to respond, especially in these line of cases, these election cases. We don't have the luxury of waiting 30 days or 45 days to respond. The judge says you have to respond, and sometimes it's the next day. Sometimes, it's maybe 3 days later. So when this case was initially filed in the Western District, there was a short turnaround time to respond.
Okay, very good. So bearing all that in mind, we have a motion to recommend to the county manager for the removal of the Joyce Carmody and Moran firm legal representation in lawsuits for Luzerne County. And that was made by Mr. Griffith and second by Mr. Haas. Roll call, please.
Mr. Griffith?
Yes.
Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Sorry, yes.
Ms. Radel,
No.
Ms. Sedman, Ms. Sedman, Mr. Schnee, Mr. Schnee,
Some people may have their microphones muted.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Vogt,
No.
Ms. Sedman,
No.
Mr. Schnee,
No.
Mr. McKinley.
No?
6 yes, 5 no.
Okay, motion carries. Now down to public comment on non-agenda
Mr. Chairman.
items. Yes, Mr. Sneed. Go ahead.
On my response, but not very happy in the minutes.
Okay,
Not very happy what went on, but I'm not telling a litigator how to litigate.
okay.
Something like that has to have safeguards that never happens again.
Okay, very good. Duly noted. Okay, members of the public. It's now open for members of the public on
Mr.
non-agenda
McKinley,
items.
this is Mark Rabo speaking.
Go ahead, Mr. Rabo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With what just happened, I would like to make a clarification to the Chief County Solicitor. I never said the Office of Law or solicitors representing the Office of Law are circumventing the charter on respect for this case. All I said was third parties who act on behalf of the county doing a political stunt like this in the future in terms of usurping and undermining the authority of the county council or the county manager should be held accountable. Though that is, I'm specifically saying about third parties who represent the county or the Office of Law in the future, not the Office of Law itself or the solicitors. So I just wanted to make that clarification. Also, I'd like to point out in the future, as far as any regards of asking a recusal of any judge or federal judge, under federal regulation 28 USC 455, requires a proceeding in which a federal judge's impartiality, quote, impartiality might be reasonably questioned, unquote, and other parts of the statute specifically add states in which a judge should recuse themselves, such as personal bias, prejudice, concerning a party, financial conflicts, etc. So I would like to make that point as well for council's edification and the solicitor's edification in the future. With respect to the work session, I'd like to ask, as far as the presentations, the DA, as far as with the seniors that are facing targeted by phone calls from foreign entities. My mother was recently struck by one, targeted by one, a foreign entity posing as PPNL, and the person happened to be from Bangladesh. So I don't think that PPNL has any satellite offices, Mr. Chairman, in Bangladesh. So I think the DA should be made aware of that, and her office should look into the targeting of seniors being targeted by foreign entities. Also, when it comes to the corrections, how much did the Energy Savings Project save in years on average? Also, if the water expenses have been lowered due to the new plumbing and the shutoffs that were part of that project a few years ago. And as far as the CARES Act money being used to reimburse the expenses for COVID issues at the jail and at the prison, if those have been implemented or have been used from the COVID, if the county manager or Mr. Rakovich could, clarify for that if that has been implemented. And also, I would like to ask as far as the condition of the roof at the prison for any leaks, if that's if there's any problems. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Other members of the public?
Mr. Manta?
Go ahead, Mr. Manta.
Okay, this question, and I'll ask the question, and then I would like Romilda to respond to it.
Wait,
Romilda.
Mr. Manta, just ask your question, please.
Okay. Okay, this goes for either one of the legal people. Wouldn't it have behooved them to be able to practice in the Western District? That's the first question. And the second question is the turnaround time could be easily emailed. Email is not like snail mail to answer up to these questions. And as far as the attorney goes that led the county down that line, it seems to me that the county council did fair justice to what happened in this case. No, they don't want to find another attorney, which is what everyone said, but to reprimand him and put him on a list that if we need him, use them. If you don't need them, the county shouldn't have to use them for anything. They should be, the Office of Law should be able to get themselves in a legal position to operate in the western part of Pennsylvania, because you never know what's going to happen in the future.
That's true, but then, Mr. Manta, we would have to be admitted in the other districts, not limited just to the Western District. I can tell you, I believe Western Pennsylvania is beautiful. I like Pittsburgh. I don't want to practice in the Western District. There's fees attached to being admitted there. And I can tell you, we would, being that we were not admitted, we don't have experience in front of the judges there, we would be at a severe disadvantage. Doing federal work is, we have lawyers who do trial work here on the county level, and then there are lawyers who do federal work. It really is an entity of itself, in and of itself. I can tell you this: I am admitted into the United States Supreme Court. That I could have been a part of, but to have the solicitors be admitted into the other district courts wouldn't serve the county for a lot of reasons.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mother. I appreciate it.
Ron Knapp.
Go ahead, Mr. Knapp.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a question for Romelda and Mr. DeLuca.
Just here's the question, Mr. Knapp.
The question is, if one of the council women or men that voted against a solicitor for Luzerne County Council, if they were to change their mind, could they bring up an ordinance or to change the ruling on that? Because I think it's necessary. I can't reiterate that enough. That Luzerne County Council was blindsided, as Councilman Urban stated, and I believe that if Luzerne County Council was represented by the solicitor themselves, we would not be going through all this as we are speaking, and it was a whole lot of, as far as I'm concerned, waste of time. Okay, now in respect to the juvenile center property, I wanted to thank Councilwoman McDermott for expediting the process in regards to the property. And there are 4 questions that I want to ask, and I'm going to reiterate them after the fact, after I say what I have to say about them. What is the MS4 or rain tax cost to this property? Was there any money put into the facility for upgrades to sell the property at the cost of taxpayers? And if so, what did the cost, or what was the cost as opposed to the amount that is being sold for? And that's number 3, what is the benefit of selling the building for $50,000? And number 4, are there plans for additions or add-ons to the Luzerne County prison structure itself? That's for Manager Pedre. Now, this is my viewpoint on this. Security issues in case of a jailbreak, if that were to be purchased for hotels or motel purposes. Second, security issues pertaining to the property, if it were to be used for hotel or motel, is it possible family members of convicts could stay there and use the proximity to the prison to get contraband drugs into the prison population just by throwing the stuff from the property into the prison courtyard? Number 3, it would be more cost effective to rehabilitate the premise for the use of housing minimum security inmates. 2 examples of this is the very renovation of the building on River Street just below the courthouse. Another example would be when the United States helped move the embassy to Jerusalem. The authorities rehabilitated a property at the cost of $500,000 as opposed to building a state-of-the-art facility at the cost of millions of dollars in United States taxpayers' money. Please excuse me, I'm a conservative at heart, just as the Jewish tradition is, and therefore they are so well off. This is reason why they are well-to-do. They could have sprung for a new building, but they made do with what they had to work with. Now, again, I'm going to recite these 3 or 4 questions again.
Mr. Knapp?
What is the
Mr. Knapp?
for?
Excuse me.
Yes.
Mr. Knapp, I think we heard the questions, and you've passed your time at this point. We'll make sure we'll work on those and get those some answers for you.
Mr. McGinley?
I greatly appreciate it.
Who's member of public?
Sheila. Oh.
No? Is someone else from the public, please?
Mr. Dwyer.
Go ahead, Mr. Dwyer.
I'd just like to express an opinion to the body of council and the Office of Law on the matter of the attorney that just passed. I have no doubt in Mr. DeLuca or Mr. Melda's opinion of Mr. Moran as an attorney. I do not know him. I have not had anything to do with him professionally, but I do not doubt the caliber of the attorney that he is to argue cases at that level. But having stated that, an attorney of that caliber, wouldn't he be remiss in not contacting someone at the county council level for an action of such importance? And that's just my opinion on the matter.
Okay, thank you. Others, members of the public? Hearing none. We have a motion for adjournment.
Mr. McGinley, I think, did Sheila get to say what she wanted to say, or?
Well, okay, Sheila, do you want to say something? I'm sorry.
I kind of resent the last comment by Mr. Knapp. I think it was inappropriate regarding the Jewish people being well off.
Okay.
Mr. McGinley, if I could just, before we adjourn, I just want to thank Ms. Lawrence for her hard work on getting those documents to us for the inquiry committee. There was a plethora of emails that just came over today for information that was scanned, and I know that took a lot of extra work. So I just want to thank Ms. Lawrence for the extra work that took to get that documents out to myself and other members of council. So I know that took some time and extra work that's over and above. So I just want to publicly thank her for that. Thank you.
You want to make the motion of adjournment?
Absolutely. I make a motion, we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second, Vogt.
Mr. Vogt? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition, any abstentions? None heard. Motion carries. 7:20. We'll start with the work session. And we have quite a bit to do there. I'd like to start with the budget items with the district attorney and corrections if possible, as long as no one has any issues with that. At 7:20, we will begin the work session, please. Thank you.
Hey Sheila, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I am.
Okay, perfect.
Going in and out.
Okay, so I was able to hear everything for the end of that, so let's see how it goes. Worst case, use that same call in if you have any more issues here.
Okay.